Friction. It is common experience that when a ball is rolled on the ground, it stops after traveling a finite distance. A toy car needs constant muscular force or spring force to keep it going, otherwise the car comes to stop. The answer of the above question lies in the fact that there is always a constant force acting on the bodies which opposes the motion. The force which comes into play between the two surfaces in contact and opposes the motion of one body over the other is called friction or force of friction. It has the following properties. 1. The force of friction acts between two objects in contact with each other. 2. The force of friction opposes the motion of an object. 3. It acts in a direction opposite to the direction of the motion of an object. 4. A rough surface exerts more force of friction than a smooth surface. Cause of friction. Friction is basically due to roughness of two surfaces in contact. According to modern theory, the friction is due to intermolecular interaction of two surfaces at the point of actual contact. When the surface of a body moves over that of another body, the friction between them shows the following effects. Effects of friction. 1. Friction produces heat. Frictional force converts mechanical energy into heat energy. For example, moving parts of a machine become hot. 2. Friction causes wear and tear in a machine. If we compare old car tires with new car tires, we will find that the old ones are worn out. This is due to the friction between the ground and the car tires. 3. Friction opposes motion. If we roll a football on a leveled ground, it stops after some time. Here too, friction opposes the motion. Do you know? People cannot dive deeper than about 120 meters, 400 feet, as the water pressure would crush them. Methods of increasing friction. As you have seen, in certain situations, friction is necessary. It is also useful to us in many situations. Hence, it is necessary to increase it in many cases. 1. The tires of automobiles are made rough and have grooves on them so that they can have better grip on the surface of road to prevent sliding. 2. The soles of our shoes are made rough so that we can walk easily without slipping on the road. 3. Sport shoes are provided with spikes nowadays in order to increase friction. Sprinters have better grip on the track by using spike shoes. 4. Sand is spread on slippery ground during the rainy season to increase friction and prevent slipping. Methods of reducing friction. Although friction between two surfaces can never be totally eliminated, but it can be reduced in the following ways. 1. By polishing the surface. This makes the surface smooth and reduces friction. 2. By using lubricants, grease, oil. When a lubricant is used between two in contact, it forms a thin layer between the surfaces and reduces friction. 3. By using ball bearings. Small balls or rollers made of steel are placed between the two moving surfaces to reduce friction. 4. By using wheels or rollers on heavy suitcase. We can reduce the friction by using wheels or rollers so that we can pull the suitcase easily on the ground. 5. By streamlining. The objects moving in air or water encounter a lot of fluid friction. Resistance is reduced by making the body of these objects streamlined. A streamlined body is narrower in front and broader at the back. For example, aeroplanes, ships, boats, submarines, etc. have streamlined bodies. The bodies of aerial and aquatic animals like birds and fish, are also streamlined, which help them flying in air and swimming in water respectively. Types of friction. The friction can be divided into three categories. 1. Static friction. 2. Sliding friction. 3. Rolling friction. 1. Static friction. When a body is in contact with a surface at rest without any external force, the force of friction is zero. On applying small force, the force of friction starts in a direction opposite to the direction of motion of the body. As long as the body remains at rest, the force of friction is equal to the force applied and is called the static friction. Thus, frictional force that exists between two surfaces at rest is called the static friction. It is always equal and opposite to the applied force. Activity. Measuring frictional force. Take a wooden block provided with a hook. Attach a spring balance to the hook and place the wooden block on the table. Pull the spring balance gently by applying small force. The block does not move, that is, it does not sufficient to overcome the friction. Now, increase the force. Note that a certain minimum force is required to get the block moving. Limiting friction. The force of friction which acts when a body just starts sliding on the surface is called limiting friction. Limiting friction depends on the nature of surfaces in contact with each other. 2. Sliding friction. When the external force exceeds the limited friction, the body begins to move on the surface. This force of friction, when body slides over the surface of another body, is called sliding friction. The amount of sliding friction depends on 1. The weight of the object that is moving and the types of surfaces that the object slides across. 2. Sliding friction is constant and is always less than the limiting friction. 3. Rolling friction. The frictional force that exists between two surfaces when a body rolls over the other is called rolling friction. Activity. To show rolling friction, take a wooden block and place it on the table. Now, place 3 or 4 pencils parallel to each other under the wooden block. Pull the block gently with the help of spring balance until the wooden block just starts sliding over the pencils. Observation. It is easier to move the block. Result. The force required is always less than the sliding friction for the same body. Thus, wheels and rollers are used in machines as rolling friction is less than sliding friction. Fact. The jacana bird of South America has exceedingly long toes and claws. Its weight is, therefore, spread over a large area and it can walk on the floating lily pads without sinking. Advantages of friction. 1. Due to friction we are able to walk on the ground. You know how difficult it is to walk on a slippery ground when friction is much less. 2. The friction permits us safe driving on the ground. 3. We are able to write on a paper because of friction between a paper and a pen or a pencil. 4. The application of brakes stops a car because of the presence of friction between tires and ground and also between brakes and the drum of wheel. Disadvantages of friction. Although friction is of great importance in our life, yet in many cases it acts as an evil. Some of the disadvantages of friction are as follows. 1. Friction reduces the efficiency of a machine as it causes wear and tear in machinery parts in contact and are moving. 2. The generation of heat due to friction can damage the surface in contact. 3. Friction causes wastage of energy. The frictional force between the various parts in a machine produces a lot of heat and noise at the cost of mechanical energy. Hence, there is a loss of energy.